Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Welcome to this week's Spin of Words. Slightly late, there's been a few hitches, but it's going to go out anyway. I will be putting this out on, at the moment, my audio channel, which is hosted in several areas. And also I shall place it on Facebook and LinkedIn as I did before, maybe on Instagram as well. And eventually all these videos will be going on a YouTube channel. Quite a job creating a YouTube channel, I discovered. All the things you have to do, some things I'm totally useless at. I'm not an expert in anything. Going back to last week, I'm an expert in talking, but we all are. This week's episode was going to be just about one subject, but I want to cover two subjects. And I think the word justice is an interesting one. How do we get justice? That's the question. I was at a meeting earlier on, I feel it's just discussing things. And that area came up in a way. But that's for the future. And I will, at the end, I'll make an announcement what's going to happen next week, which I'm quite excited about. Originally, I was going to concentrate on the Chancellor's spring statement. And I was going to call it the rebuttal to the spring statement. But then other things came up, so I'm covering two topics. I'll talk about the second one later on. Let us discuss our incredible Chancellor's spring statement, which at a time when a lot of people are living by their knuckles, so to speak, he could have done something. He didn't. The only thing he did was he made two announcements. 5p off the duty for fuel. The funny thing is, I've read now that this 5p that's been taken off is not going to be passed to the public by the petrol companies. After all, they do need to earn money. So really that 5p was like a kick in the thing. He gives it to Sainton probably. The other thing which we everybody hoped, he was going to talk about the energy crisis and the increasing bills that are coming on. He did nothing. All he did was say that in 2024, there will be tax cuts. Oh, fantastic. The funny thing is, I realized, I was saying to one of my friends, is that's the year of the general election. And most parties, when it comes to a general election, start giving you money because they want your votes. After all, as Mr. Sunak said in his budget speech, the Conservative Party are the party for the people. The what people? Mr. Sunak himself is a millionaire. Actually, I heard on the radio program, he was asked how much a loaf of bread was. And he turned around and said, well, in my household, we have several different types of bread. Well, I doubt Mr. Sunak even goes in his shops himself. Probably has a lackey to do his shopping for him. Not his wife. His wife's also a millionaire. And the interesting point is, whenever he's been told to take their business out of Russia, she has £90 million invested in a Russian company. I don't know how easy it is to take the money out, but that has been ignored by many people. And once again, let's just go back to the budget speech, which he announced there'll be an increase of 6.6% to civil servants. Well, the reason for this is because they've had a pay freeze for so long. He didn't do that with the benefit people. He didn't alleviate to it. He just did it by the current rate of inflation. And as we know, in April, everybody's going to get a 3.1% increase on benefits and pension. The pensioners before were getting a treble lockdown. It would have been a lot of money. I would have looked forward to it as a pensioner. but he has done nothing for people. He did say he's trying to help the working family. What about the families who aren't working? What about the individuals? Our food bills are going up. And if I may mention Brexit for a moment, what wasn't said when we were leaving Europe is, well, there might be some hardship at the beginning. Well, there is hardship at the beginning. A lot of our food stuff does come from Europe. Thus, we have to pay import tax now, which we didn't before. Also, another thing is there's a shortage of tins. So tin food goes up. I was thinking about cats just then when I said tin food goes up. I wonder if they would pay it. No, they won't pay it. They get something to pay it for them, as Mr. Sunak does. The funny thing is that before he announced the increase in national insurance, he got a letter from several very wealthy people saying, don't put the national insurance up, put a penny on our income tax bill. We'll pay it. Well, Mr. Sunak did not. I could say it's because he himself is a millionaire. It means he'll have to pay more. And it's interesting, isn't it? Interesting how much they earn. No, Mr. Sunak was a millionaire. Mr. Johnson was not. Although somehow he managed to earn £4 million earlier this year, in a short period, where he is actually the Prime Minister. To me, the Prime Minister's prime job is to be the First Minister of this country, not to go out earning money. You know, he's agreed, he's got a powerful position. And as we know, there are several investigations going about around Mr. Johnson. So I'm not going to talk about that, because I did last year and it got boring. But what could have been done, you ask? This is my opinion. As I said, it's only my opinion. He could have spoken to the energy companies and make a cap on the energy bills. Mr. Gordon Brown, a former Prime Minister and Chancellor, was on the radio a few days ago and he announced how bad it was. But also he did say, and I didn't know this, in September there's no rise in energy bills. What will you do? Remember, at the moment, well, although I did hear from somebody who lives in Oldham today that it's snowing in Oldham. Can't believe that in April, but it's possible. It's going to get warmer and warmer, we hope. But after September, we're coming to our autumn, winter. It's going to get cold. The choice for people is food or heating. Well, I can tell you, as somebody who was on a very low income at one time, I wore a lot of jumpers and coats so I could have food. There is no help for the people. Mr. Johnson could have changed the amount of money he's given to people because of the cost of living crisis. Sorry, Mr. Sunak, I should say. Well, remember, he probably just discussed this with the Prime Minister. After all, he is the Prime Minister, the First Minister of this country. But I don't have much faith in him. What would you do? What do you think should have happened? If you have any ideas, let me know, please. You can email me at binofwords@writeme, WRITE.com. Now the second subject of justice. Yesterday actually, on the Wednesday, the 30th, it was announced 20 people have been fined for Partygate. Partygate? It's come up. Now I'm sure, like you, I'd love to know who those 20 people are. The police are refusing to divulge this. Now, I was discussing with somebody today about this particular subject of names being divulged. Now, the only time the police cannot divulge names is if that person might be at risk. I could see several of our ministers being attacked by people. I could see several people be disgusted. Remember one thing, Mr. Johnson's denied, at first he's denied there were any parties. Then he said he wasn't aware of them. The question is, why were the photographs of him at parties? I remember seeing a picture in the garden of number 10. There he is sitting with his wife and a couple of people. And in the background, you saw people around a table help themselves to food. According to Mr. Johnson, that was a business meeting. Question: how long has Mrs. Johnson been part of the government? She should not have been there if it's a business meeting. After all, confidential work has been discussed. You can't tell everybody, even your wife. But no, according to Mr. Johnson, that was a business meeting. He has no awareness of any parties. And then there's a photograph of him on Zoom with a person beside him hosting a quiz. Now, sure, he wasn't in close contact with other people on Zoom, but beside him was a fellow who was, a few feet away, it looked like, who was not wearing a mask. Now, I understand why he can wear a mask. He's saying the questions. But the other person wasn't. And yet, at that point, masks were part of the law. If you're near somebody, ridiculous. Is there one rule for one rule for the other? That's the question, really. And what do we do about it? Well, there's nothing we can do until the general election comes around and we can vote. I would encourage people not to vote for the Conservative Party. I'm not even sure about the Labour Party. I'm not even sure about the Looney Party if they were still around. Because nobody at the moment in politics that I have complete faith in, even though some of them do make quite good representation. The head of the Scottish National Party, when we talk, seems to make some sense. But I'm not in Scotland, I'm in England. Here's a big question. Justice. What is justice for all? We don't get much of it. I do. Today I had a little victory. I got an underpayment on my pension and I could do with extra money. So I phoned up and after 10 minutes I got it. It wasn't much money, it was like 30 quid odd. But it's useful. You yourselves should be able to say what you want. And if you feel it, you should be able to advocate for it or get somebody who can advocate for you. The problem is there aren't many agencies that will advocate. A good example is a few years ago, the CAB, Citizens Advice Bureau, got a contract to help people to sign on to universal credit. But there was one proviso. If there's any problem with the claim, they would do nothing. Help somebody who's on to universal credit, there's a problem with it. Doesn't that make sense? It doesn't to me. There should be people there who will help. And there should be an independent body, in my own opinion. It should be somebody aside, not politicians, not police, maybe a group of volunteers with some sort of paid coordinator. I'd do it. I would do it. A few years ago, I was talking to a gentleman who was CEO of a big homeless organisation about advocacy. And I said, the problem is you can't get the money to run it because it's great to do it. Unfortunately, it does cost money. Even this costs money.